So there.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
Why do you keep saying let us know your thoughts?
Let me know your thoughts to me is a nice lead-in for So there. So there. Welcome to episode 33 of So there. I'm Tom Karamitis.
And I'm
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And I need the Heimlich maneuver. I'm Gary Doyle.
Gary Doyle's sick.
He's very sick.
I love Gary Doyle. Yeah. You all right now? You with me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So,
that's much of, by the way, Tom Karamitis and I, that's much of our conversation often is, yeah. We'll do this for about half an hour at a time. Yeah.
And somehow some people find it riveting.
We do. Would those be the some people you refer to?
Yes.
Yes.
So I wanted to tell you that, coming right off the heels of Bayer telling us that this is why we science, last week, Volvo suggested we summer safely.
Oh.
Noun as verb lives on. It has not cooled off yet.
I gotta say that has had staying power for an advertising trend. It has really shown legs. Yeah. I think that's because it, you want the topic to be in the tagline. Family. You want it to be short. You want it to be different, and so maybe where you end up and active. Do something. You're telling the viewer or the reader to do something. So maybe all those things are causing advertisers to use nouns as verbs. Family, greatly. This is how we science. Summer, what was it? Summer
safely.
Summer safely reminds me of Summer Wheatley from Napoleon Dynamite. Do you remember her?
Yes.
Do you remember her campaign slogan?
She was the no, she was like the cheerleader type.
Yeah.
What was her tagline? Do you remember?
Vote for summer, and it'll be summer all year long.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Yes, as opposed to vote for Pedro and all your dreams will come true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they're both really saying the same thing in different words.
So how are things with Gary Doyle?
Like everybody else, just trying to survive. Trying to survive 2020, trying to get through 2020. I don't trust anybody. Well, it's not like I don't trust them. I don't think they're being totally honest. If you say to somebody, how you doing, just as a conversation starter, and if they say, great, I want to say, really? Are you really great? Is anybody great right now? I don't buy that. I don't think you're great. Maybe you're okay given the circumstances.
I think there is a small subset of people that are truly that all of the realities we're dealing with now all kind of play into their ultimate life vision. They like working from home. They like not having to deal with people in person, perhaps, or not deal with a commute. And this just, and perhaps they don't have to deal with having kids at home that they're trying to entertain and keep motivated and keep educated and all that stuff. And their particular circumstances seem to play right into their ideal world vision.
So has Tom Karamitis identified a pro-pandemic bloc that's in favor of the pandemic?
Yes. No, not in favor of the pandemic, but it seems to not really be straining very much under the current realities. Now, I would say, in their very fragile worldview, all it takes is them losing their job for it to all fall apart. Because the thing that worries me is, okay, we're all kind of making do with this, but can most companies continue this way, indefinitely? I mean, I don't know,
Yeah. It's it's kind of like, yeah, the pandemic's bad, but, I get to walk my dog a lot more often. The pandemic is bad, but, yeah.
You know what? My lawn has never looked better.
Well, you know what we say about those people. This is how we pandemic.
Well, I have been, spending a lot of time walking around my neighborhood. Now, I know my neighborhood is different from Gary Doyle's neighborhood. Gary Doyle's neighborhood is full of wrought iron fences and guardhouses. My neighborhood is a little bit more of kind of, upper middle class. And,
I don't have a I don't have a guardhouse.
Well, it may not be occupied.
I do have a
guard.
wrought iron fence.
Right.
I don't have a guardhouse.
All right. Well, then you probably won't be able to identify with this phenomenon as easily as I will. But I've been noticing a lot of what I'm calling the Mayberrying of America. Just an increasing number of people who are putting rocking chairs on their front porches, and putting these kind of signs out that say home. The whole Mayberry rocking chair thing always bugs me because I can't picture myself just sitting on my front stoop, passing judgment on everybody who walks by, feeling obligated to kind of wave at everybody and people I don't know just because they happen to be in the neighborhood. Have you noticed any of this stuff or?
No, but I tell you what I have noticed are the signs. Like signs that people put on their homes or in their yard that kind of express something. The beach is my home. Love is love. Some kind of statement. Go jump in the lake. Someone in town here has a sign on their front of their house that says, "Go jump in the lake," and it's people are, life is good. I've seen that one too. Life is good. It's like a wall, like a wood block made out of those letters, but if they put that on their wall, I've noticed a lot of that, of signage that expresses something on your home or your yard.
It's seems to be an extension of the bumper sticker thing, that people feel they need to make either a statement or in some cases like 35 different statements about what they believe in and who they are and paste it to the back of their car. And now all of a sudden it's a statement about the people who live in this house.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I think it's also perhaps an extension of the internet. The internet gave everybody a vehicle for self-expression. Everybody now can express themselves and have a point of view. And I think it's maybe a carryover from that, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I do. And some of it to me is the fact that we're just home so much more now. And perhaps, I'm thinking during like the normal work week, a lot of the year, you leave in the morning, it's not really light out. You get home at night and it's still dark out and you don't really notice this stuff. Like I'd never really took walks around my neighborhood before, but now it's kind of part of my daily routine in the morning. And I'm just noticing that, there are people who like to tell little stories around their front yard with little, whether they're like stone turtles or religious icons or, little tableaus, around their flower bed. And I'm trying to think, they put a lot of care and love into these things, but, I don't know. It's just interesting the different worldview statements you get from people in passive way and passive and subtle ways, and then also kind of more in your face ways.
I'm gonna get a sign on the side of my house. You know what it's gonna say? I like food. Or perhaps a yard sign. I like food.
My companion to that could be, cheese is my mistress.
So there. Well, those are all great points, Tom, and I would like to make a couple of points in the form of something that we used to do in the podcast, a segment that we used to do on a podcast that was very popular with our listeners, but we've for some reason gotten away from it, and that's called
I decree.
So, I decree is what would happen if I were the king. If I were the king of the world and I could decree things, and they would happen. They would just happen because I am the king. There is no Senate or legislative body. It just it happens because
I decree.
So,
Is it the equivalent of an executive order, would you say?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although executive orders expire when the president leaves office that decreed them, but the king,
I didn't
his
know
decrees,
that.
yes, executive orders are only in force for
That executive is.
for when that executive is president. That's why Obama, a lot of what he resorted to is executive orders because he couldn't get Congress to approve anything that he wanted to do, and so Trump came in and undid all those, and now Trump is issuing executive orders. So it's become much more common than it used to be in presidential behavior. But anyway, we are what do we call that? We're sidebarring. This is how you sidebar. So I decree
Sidebar safely.
sidebar effectively. I decree that someone has to say the evening's over. All right, or someone has to say the gathering is over. So let's say you're out to dinner with friends, another couple, and it's or maybe it's a business dinner, and it's you've had the dinner, you've had dessert, and you've had the coffee, and now you're kind of dawdling, and nobody wants to say, well, gosh, I got to go to bed. I'm tired. Nobody wants to. Well, usually you say it in a more subtle fashion, like, well, it's getting late, or I gotta get an Uber. No, people are reluctant to do that. So I decree that someone has to say, okay, evening's over, goodbye.
So somebody has to be brave enough.
Brave,
Right? Because I find that phenomenon is inversely proportional to how familiar people are with each other at the gathering. You're out at like a business dinner or on a shoot with the client, and everyone's being very nice to each other. You don't know each other very well, and no one wants to your point, make that first move about, I want to go now.
Right. It's the first move. But then invariably the person that makes that move, everybody's secretly relieved. Everyone's like, oh, thank God somebody said it. I can get up and stretch. Everyone's happy for it, but it took that one brave person to make the move.
I would say I think we should salute the person who is brave enough to do that, because you are going out on a limb and you can be mocked and ridiculed briefly, especially if the other people at the table aren't ready to leave. I think a lot of times you do have that collective gasp of, oh, thank God somebody
almost
said it.
Always. Really,
Yeah.
There's very few people that want to stay if it's 10:30 and,
We have to get up early tomorrow.
Right.
Plus, we're
Right.
getting older.
Well, you
Like-
are. You'll always be older than me.
Yes, by exactly
Aren't you
1 year.
older? 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year to the day.
Tom and I have the same birthday.
1 year apart.
Another decree that I would like to decree if I were the king is and this is a work decree.
I decree.
That no one shall ask you if such and such a time is okay to have a meeting if they have access to your calendar. So this happened to me about 4 times last week, 4 or 5 times. Somebody would say, hey, could you do a meeting at 2? And this would be people that work with me. And to my coworkers listening to this, I love all of you. But, and so they have access to my calendar, but they would ask, can you do a 2 o'clock meeting? And, I have to respond back. First, I check my calendar and see, but, respond back, yes, I can. But, my calendar is up to date. So I decree that no one shall ever ask that question when they work with me.
Let me just throw something out. Let me just suggest the people who are not wanting to put something on your calendar, are these people who are perhaps intimidated by Gary Doyle, creative director, and feel like it would
group
creative director. Thank you. Duly noted. For the record. Are these people perhaps thinking it would be presumptuous? It would be like me putting something on the schedule for the president of the company kind of thing. Do they want to clear it with you first? Do they do this with everybody, or do they do this with you?
It's a good point. Perhaps I shouldn't respond in all caps messages. Would that be part of my intimidation gambit?
Yeah, I think Gary Doyle is...
Do you have access to my calendar?
Is that what you did?
No, I never do that. No, that's a good point. It's a good point. And perhaps they think it's presumptuous just to schedule something. Perhaps that's it also. It's like without asking, like it's presumptuous to say, here's a 2:00 meeting. But I don't think it is. So that is my decree.
It's a good decree because it's a waste of time. Because now you have to manually check your schedule and tell them yes, and then you wonder, are they now going to put it on my calendar, or do we just have this informal agreement that at 2:00 we're going to reconvene on this? I totally agree. Yes. I agree with your decree.
Whoa. Those are my 2 decrees. I'm exhausted, and my duties are done for the day, and now I must nap.
Well, as you nap, I will give you one from my decree library.
I decree.
No more wind chimes. I have grown weary of the wind chime. Sometimes on a cool night, I will open the window and think, I won't run the air conditioning tonight. I'll save a little money. And lo and behold, the neighbors have wind chimes that go on in a random dinging pattern all night long, and I can't sleep. So I decree an end to wind chimes.
My first thought was this is almost a parody of So There, to where you're angry at wind chimes. We're angry and curmudgeonly about wind chimes. The prettiest, it's like getting angry at a hummingbird. It's like, but so that was my first reaction. I kind of was aghast, and I found it to be comical, but I could see that if you're trying to sleep.
Yeah, they're pretty at noon. They're the Antichrist at 3 a.m.
Yeah, fair point. Have you thought about saying something to your neighbor, or do you just take the Tom Karamitis gambit of just staring at them, glaring at them from across the yard?
You know how conflict avoidant Tom Karamitis is, and that's one reason I've lived so long. So I'd rather just stew and brood than to confront. It takes a lot for me to confront. So there.
So There is brought to you by Midwest Promotional Group, a sponsor who is at the center of customization. You name it, we brand it. T-shirts? Check. Coffee mugs? Check. Customized AirPods? Check. Apparel is the perfect complement to your brand, and Midwest Promotional Group gives you access to most any type for a very affordable price. Branded merchandise helps build business relationships for any size business, big or small, be it client gifts, employee events, or trade show giveaways. With Midwest Promotional Group, you can access top retail brands such as Under Armour, North Face, Patagonia, Callaway, Yeti, Richardson, and more. The next time you need some branded merchandise work done, get out your pens, shop.midwestgrp.com/Tim. shop.midwestgrp.com/Tim. Tim Leahy is one of their experienced sales guys and a good friend of the show. Check his site out. He responds quickly and is ready to simplify your life by handling your next branded merchandise needs. So if your business is in need of any kind of fully customizable solutions, head on over to shop.midwestgrp.com/Tim.
I think at this point, it's time to give our listeners a peek behind the curtain at what I feel like is a bit of a crisis in the So There universe, and is a crisis of declining listenership. the listenership analytics that Gary and I study feverishly at least 36 times a day.
Well, we also have an analytics team
Yes, and they have brought
of
to our
6
attention.
full-paid staffers.
And it's been hard during COVID to continue to pay them, believe me.
We have, right.
But they point out to us many times a day that there are fewer and fewer people listening to So There. It was never really more than 8 or 9 people at its peak, but it's declining.
So when we talk about our analytics declining 33%, we're talking about from 9 to 6.
Yes. Yes.
But, yes. And so, we could say, and we have rationalized with our analytics department that, people are commuting less. Well, they're not commuting at all, and they're not walking to work, and they're not doing the things. They're maybe not in their car less. They're not leaving the house, so they're not doing the things where they may have listened to our podcast, and perhaps that's one of the reasons for our declining listenership.
But there's a little bit, perhaps, of whistling in the graveyard when we look at that rationale. And Gary and I would like to do a little bit of a deeper dive to figure out, have we lost our way?
We would like to, as the advertising people say, crowdsource some ideas to make So There better.
So what we'd like to do is ask some of our listeners what's working and, more importantly, what's not working about So There. So send us an email. It's sothere@yahoo.com. And Gary and I are going to very thoughtfully read the critiques with an eye towards perhaps inviting a couple of our loyal listeners on the next episode.
Be gentle with us, listeners. Okay, we're delicate flowers. Be gentle with us. But we want feedback. We want to crowdsource ways to make So There better and perhaps increase our listenership. So again, send your suggestions to sothere@yahoo.com. And if you'd like to be on the show to talk about how we can be better, then let us know about that too.
And look, I don't think our listeners should hold back. If they feel like they want more Tom and less Gary, I think they should come out and say that.
Or if perhaps you think Gary is very witty, but Tom is oddly annoying, let us know about that too.
Or if you feel like Tom seems to be the one that comes up with a lot of the discussion points, and Gary kind of seems to just react to what Tom is saying, that's perfectly legitimate.
So let us know, listeners. Let us know your true feelings.
I hope that hurt. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt.
You listeners should know how many times right before Gary and I start the podcast, and there usually end up being our really strongest episodes. Gary says, I got nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like Keith Jarrett improvising out of the ether. It forms.
Like Penelope springing from the forehead of Zeus.
So, keep the emails coming. Keep listening. And until next time, this is Tom and Gary saying, So there.